Hey, this is... What's up, everybody? So we are here in what will become my new studio space. Right now it's a pile of trash and junk that we're kind of going through, but looking forward to getting this into a permanent filming situation. Anyway, I'm here with a bike that I built up a while back, my Allied Able, the one that matches my truck. If you noticed, it is no longer put together. We're gonna change that today. This is going to be an interesting video where I'm building, I'll reveal it, a flat bar gravel bike. And the reason for that has to do with a long-term back injury that I've had for my whole life. We're going to be doing some interesting fit things with this bike, and what I'm trying to determine is basically I'm ruling out things. So I went on a ride with my Specialized Crux where I was on a road crank. This is a SRAM red crank, but I do most of my training and riding on SRAM's new dub wide mountain bike crank, which is much wider than this. And what I'm gonna do is apply that wider wider Q-factor and a flat bar to a rigid skinny tire bike to see if this is the reason why my back hurts so bad, or if it was just the frame in general being the skinny tires and the gravel frame. So if you're into that, or if you're just into the flat bar gravel bike, definitely watch to the end of the video. I'm excited to kind of piece this together because I think not only is it going to be lighter than if this bike had drop bars, but I think it's going to be kind of a cool build. This is going to be, obviously being a flat bar, we need flat bar brakes. This frame though is a flat mount frame, and luckily for me though, I do have these SRAM red calipers. What we're going to be doing is just attaching the red caliper to the Level Ultimate lever to combine them into this crazy build I'm doing.
There's a movie about this.
Really?
Frankenstein.
That's fair. That's kind of fair. Just in case you were wondering, this is the same as this. It just says red instead of level. Same fluid push ratio and everything, so we're not doing anything. This will work just as great as this. We just need the mounting to be different. So let's throw it on the bike. First things first, we got to put our flat bar on our flat bar gravel bike. Probably the most important piece of this build. We have a Truvative Atmos carbon bar. This is a pretty standard zero rise bar. I actually run this bar on my BC40 and tons and tons of miles with it. High quality bar, not expensive, super easy to live with. We are going to be using a 100mm stem to start. One reason for that is this is a spur of the moment. I was just kind of thinking in my head, and I had this frame in the basement. The reason I kept this frame in the first place is because I was a little nervous about the Crux being so road bikey. That's for another video though. This bike I hung in the basement kind of as like I think I still want to do something with this in the future. And the reach on this bike, I'm gonna set it up with a 100mm stem, and then that's gonna put me hopefully just a little shorter than I would run a mountain bike cockpit. At least if you do the math on the reach, I think I would need to have a 110 or a 120 to equal my mountain bike. That's not out of the question, but I want to kind of see how this feels. I kind of think that being so wide on this might actually, just because of the way the geometry is, I want to kind of just test it out. And also, just to be bluntly honest, I don't have a 110 in the drawer or a 120 in the drawer, so we're going to start with 100. Like I said, this is a spur of the moment video. It's raining outside and we had some extra time, so just kind of screwing around at the end of the day right now. Do you feel like we're screwing around?
Kinda,
yeah.
We don't work.
What I'm trying to work out in my head right now is the best way to route these hoses, because it's interesting. I actually need to route from the front to the back, which is harder to do than routing from the back to the front. Just took the little like eagle cover off. And so what we need to do is probably get some I'm gonna go for it, but we might have to get the the blue boys and fish it through, but I'm definitely gonna try to make it work without doing that. I was hoping that it's something like that would happen, where it's kind of like cutting the hoses on this is always interesting, because I was kind of hoping it would be like, yeah, like that. Maybe I might even zip tie the lines together. We'll see how it shakes out. It's kind of in the imagination stage right now. Okay, so the hole is kind of small, and what I'm trying to do is use 2 Park tool picks to kind of like guide it with one, and then there's the edge of it. So I gotta grab it with this one. Too far. Yeah.
Surgery.
So we were successful in doing it that really stupid way.
We did it.
We did it. Definitely everybody should route their cables exactly like me. It's the smartest thing you can do.
Trust.
Trust. But yeah, we did it. So now I'm gonna reinstall the Eagle so I don't lose this bolt. We can start thinking about the lengths of these hoses a little bit. What I'm doing right now is, just because this is an interesting brake hose situation, we want to make sure we cut it correctly. You want to know like how far in the brakes are going to be. So putting the grips on is actually one of the important first steps here.
What's that thing you're putting on right now?
The togs.
Where can you get togs?
The bicycle station.
The what?
Did I whisper that too much?
Yeah.
Thebicyclestation.com, y'all. I really appreciate all the support. If you guys ever need to order anything, definitely hit us up. There's a link in the description. I am apologizing for not being as excited, but my back legitimately does hurt a lot, and so I'm trying my best.
So what he really meant was, get those togs at thebicyclestation.com.
Yeah, exactly that, Jimmy. Thank you.
You know, while we're there, what kind of shifters are you putting on this thing?
The trim shifter, they have one. The pod. I like the pod. I think it'll be good on this. It's low profile, super aero. Right?
Yep.
Is it just gonna rub the frame? Is that, there's no way around that, is there?
We just need to put tape on it.
Yeah, that's probably the only solution to this, because I don't really see any other way.
You can't go on the other side.
No. Because there's no way to put it in the frame right here.
Why not just put it in that hole? Just do the same hole. Just wrap it all the way around.
I'll try that. Maybe Gavin's right.
Just wrap it around, shove it in the hole.
Thank you. No.
No?
Nah. That ain't right. I just think it's like, it's always gonna be like, yeah.
It was a shot.
It was worth a shot. So in an attempt to kind of help wrangle this cable, we're gonna use the little tab cable holder things. At least try it out. Throw one on there, put the bolt back in. See how that does.
Sick.
That seems a lot better.
That's the move.
Yeah, kind of holding it in place. My other thought was just to tape it. It does look cool.
Have you ever used one of those before?
I've tried to use them, but because of all my bikes having the one-piece cockpits, I haven't really had a good reason to. So we're definitely going to tape the frame, which is no big deal at all. But that looks a lot better to me.
I think it looks real clean.
And now it's not wrapping up top. Before it was like whenever you would, oh, I just pulled it out of its. So now all right, let's see.
I mean, if your handlebar turns that much, something happened, right?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I mean, you're like doing fancy tricks or wrecking.
I think that's reasonable cable ready. So now we can revisit the rear here, and we're gonna just shove a little bit in the frame. Like that. Riding cables from the front is real weird, y'all. Everyone keeps getting mad at me for cutting hoses with these. I don't know where the hose cutter is, so sue me. Sue me. No one sued me yet.
Not yet.
I'm ready for it.
Do you think this is gonna work?
I hope so.
It's gonna be cool if it works.
Yeah, it would be cool. I'm really excited to try this out. This is not something I would normally be too into, but in this circumstances, it's definitely, I think, before I call it quits for good on the gravel machines here, let's try to be a little creative. Would you call this creative?
This is definitely creative.
Art class. Get the crayons out.
You say crayons or crayons?
Crayons. You got any of them crayons? I found the hose cutter. Look at this, yo. On the next one, I'll use the hose cutter. It was just on the vise, I just didn't see it. It's kind of ironic that we're gonna put a super, super wide Q-factor crank on this. We're gonna put a crank on this bike that it was specifically designed to work with a narrow crank, and we are totally throwing that out the window today. We're gonna put a big boy on it. Here we go. I should probably put the seat post in this thing.
Such nice tires.
That's a whole nother video, Jimmy. Don't spoil it. Don't spoil my video. I've always talked a bunch of crap about Renee Hurst, and so I am doing a challenge where I have to run these Renee Hurst tires until they are done. And they've already lasted a lot longer than I expected. But the real, honestly, that's another reason I'm putting this bike together. I don't really want to ride my gravel bike because it's hurting my back. But I also promised to do this whole Renee Hurst thing, and so I was not sure what to do.
You're doing this for the people.
I'm doing it for the people. Yeah. But I won't spoil that video. That's an upcoming video. I also kind of want to address something if you're wondering about why I don't just go talk to a bike fitter, I am. I'm a big fan of bike fitting and learning about it. This is me working through it in my own way. I'm also collaborating with an actual bike fitter in this process, so it's not just me doing this. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I am trying to see if it's the bike being stiff, or if it's the cranks being too narrow, or if it's the drop bar. I train on the flat bars all the time, so none of my mountain bikes hurt my back. The position is great, but whenever I'm on a drop bar bike, it always seems to flare my back up, so it's part of the process of me figuring that out. All right, and I want to I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about here. What I suspect is creating some of the problem. So just a little bit of context on my injury. I was a collegiate swimmer for Denison University, and in my senior year I had a back injury where I had three slip discs in my back. Training butterfly and breaststroke, I was never very good at those two strokes. Finally just injured my back, and the thing that helped me feel better was that I started doing a stationary bike, and actually it's why I got into cycling in the first place. I couldn't swim anymore, so every morning I'd do the stationary bike, and then instead of going to afternoon practice, I'd go ride my bike out around the town and on the bike path in Granville. Then after I graduated, I just kept riding, and now I own a bike shop, which is cool. But the science behind my injury is that one of my hips is slightly tilted, which is then pulling on my back a little bit, and that's part of the reason why the disc slipped. So whenever I rode the Crux the other day, my hips were so sore, and that's why I'm kind of honing in on this crank thing right now. For context, my hips just hurt so bad, and that's never happened to me on a bike before. SRAM, and I don't have one in my hand right now, SRAM released Dub Wide Mountain. And I've talked about this in a previous video about the Epic World Cup. So it's actually even wider than this crank. But if you want to just see the difference here, there's a significant difference in
which is which.
The longer one's the mountain bike crank. And then I've actually been using even wider cranks than this one. This is a 164, or it's 168, I apologize. The Dub Wide is another 6 or 7 mil longer, which is a lot. So this crank is even narrower than the cranks I've been using. But this crank, I suspect is why I went from one bike feeling fine to the Crux and just feeling crippled right after riding the Crux. The other one I've been using on a mountain bike is even wider than this one that we're going to be using on this bike.
That's a big difference.
You know what? Let me just go grab a Dub Wide crank. I thought we didn't have one, but we do have one. It's an XXSL group set available for sale right now at thebicyclestation.com. Check the link below. by it. It has the wide Q-factor crank in the box, so let's check that out. So now we have all three. There's actually a fourth one that is called Road Wide, and it's not relevant for our current video that we're working on here, but check that out. Even wider. Now let's compare. This is what I've been riding the majority of my miles on. This is what I was riding with the Crux.
Yeah, that is a big difference.
It's a huge difference. Again, this is just me theorizing. I think this makes sense. Like, right? Like, that's huge. I mean, I'll just freaking measure it. Like, let's just do it. This one is 100 and I think Q factor is from pedal to pedal, but I'm just gonna measure the spindles because that's what I can do right now. That one's 110. This one is 120. So we're going a centimeter, and this one is 125. So I've been riding 125, and I should just look up the Q factor on this crank, and I will after I stop talking, but the other thing I want to point out is that these cranks are straight. The spindle's wider, then it bows out even further. So I know for a fact, this one is 168 Q factor, this one is 174. I'm gonna Google this one really quick, I'll be right back. So I did just go grab a Road Wide, and Gavin came over and we were just chatting. So we have the Q factor from pedal to pedal is 145. We have Road Wide. The spindle's a little bit wider. The Q factor from pedal to pedal is 150. But the spindle is the same as Boost. So that is the same measurement. It's about 120 mil spindle. Difference is the bow in the crank arm. So this one is 150, this one is 168, this bow's 18 millimeters out. So this bend right here equals on both sides. It's because there's another side, right? That equals an 18 millimeter difference. What's 18 divided by 2? 9?
9.
So this bow is 9 millimeters right here. The really interesting thing is that because the spindle really affects the chain line, the Q factor on this crank should not affect the chain line at all. Effectively what I'm doing is putting a dub wide road crank on a gravel bike, but then that's the chain line, is dub wide road. But then because I'm running a mountain bike crank, it gives me that extra 18 width. We're gonna see if that works out, and I hope you guys enjoyed this comparison. I'm kind of excited about this. I could be total crackpotting right now. I don't have a clue if this makes any sense, but like, I know that going from this to this is ridiculously different. I think that's part of what is my problem. We're sciencing. I have a BB Infinite here, and the best way I've thought to make this work is, and there's multiple ways you can achieve what I'm doing here. I have boost spacers here, and we're gonna space the cups out. Oh wait, this is a road one. Oopsies. I found the right spacer. I have a lot left over from the Boost era. These are just so what this is gonna do is space the crank out, or space the bottom bracket out 5 millimeter, so effectively making it from a 68 mil shell to a 73 mil shell. Then the mountain bike crank should work just perfectly good in this. If it doesn't, we'll redo it. Could have probably picked spacers that matched up a little better.
Ever since I've had my concussion, nothing's bothered me.
That's good.
Yeah.
Almost ready to unveil the coolest crank setup I've ever put together. Check it out. We got.
I love it.
What do you think? Should I run the battery cover or just take it off?
I like it off, but that's more aero.
Is it? It's on the bike. XX1 Aero Boy. The battery cover kind of went back on there, so I'm just gonna roll with it. Jimmy said it was more aero, so that's a crank on a bike. It's the vintage XX1 too. The reason I still have this in my drawer is for old time's sake, you know? I do have this SL Sprint stem. I'm kind of thinking that it could be nice to have that with the flat bar. Should I use the aero top cover? Or just the zip top cover?
Definitely the aero top cover.
I'll think about it. We'll do a swap out. Let's finish building this thing first. As promised.
It's looking like a bike.
It's a little goofy, but I think it's gonna be fun. Maybe I can graduate back to drop bars too, you know? Or maybe that's just a myth and drop bars are stupid.
Maybe drop bars are gonna go the way of press fit.
I wish the spike was pressed.
Same.
Cool. So last thing to do is weigh this. It feels like it needs a little bit bigger tire, to be honest with you. And I would be curious what this bike was like with a 650B. Somebody has my 650B wheel set right now, but that's something I will definitely try out as a 650 setup. We did end up switching to the Sprint stem because we thought that since you have so much leverage, it would feel a little bit more stout. It all worked out. I know this is kind of like a last minute video, but I'm pretty happy with it. The point of the video is really the Q-factor thing. Definitely excited to try and see what I can do to prolong my cycling career here. What is it?
18.1.
18.1.
That's pretty great.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's not crazy light, but it's a lot lighter than the World Cup gravel machine that we just built. The only thing I'm curious about is like, if we were just to buy a hardtail and build it, it would be 18 pounds too. And so there is that. Although maybe not, because transmission's kind of heavy. But this thing definitely feels fast. So let's give it a go. I already had all the parts, so why not? But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this, definitely comment below. Check out the bicyclestation.com if you are looking for any parts or anything like that. And we'll see y'all in the next one.